I didn't run out of memory, but for some reason the phone just, I don't know what it did. It just shut down. So this is part 2. It's weird. I wonder why the phone just shut down. Because I had plenty of battery too, so it wouldn't matter that it got unplugged. Anyway, we know that it wasn't memory because when it runs out of memory, there's actually a symbol that shows up that says your storage memory is at max capacity, and that didn't show up, so I know it wasn't memory.
But you would have been out of memory already.
Oh yeah, I would have been out of it at the 30-minute mark.
Yeah.
Okay. My the way it was set up before.
Yeah, well, it was going for 46 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I wanted to do it in one video was for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to see how long you do it, but 2, whenever you make a 2-parter, rarely anyone goes to see the second part for some reason. They'll go to the first part, but then the second part doesn't get any views. It's just kind of the way it is. I don't know why.
They're tuning in for our inspirational conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like a chat with Daniel, John, and Jeff on Juneau, in the Juneau area. Oh, someone's calling you. Here, I'll take the phone.
No, I got it.
Who's calling you?
I have no idea. It was just
a random spam call.
Yeah.
So if you can get you can see some snow way up there. Well, I'm going to get another tree right now. We're getting to a place where you start seeing snow up on the mountains. Snow that's typically there all year round, actually.
Would you be able to, do they keep the roads clean, or you have to?
Well, there's really no roads that go way up there.
I mean, where we are now.
Oh yeah, no, they're very good. I mean, in fact, usually even before it snows, they got the place salted, and yeah, it's very easy to get around as long as you have good tires. You know, you got to have those all-season snow tires. As long as you have those, you can get anywhere around here.
I bet they do good business dumping the tire people here.
Oh, I'm sure. I had to get 4 just a couple weeks ago. I had to get 4 snow tires because my other snow tires, they got all chewed up when they did all that construction on my road. I should have technically taken them off between April and October, but I was too lazy and I didn't replace them with my regular tires. So I got chewed up in that construction. I had to get new ones.
Do you think that if you were to name one thing that Juneau's people do more than anything, is it fishing?
The main thing that people do in Juneau, the 2 huge fields, are government, because it's a cedar government.
Yeah.
So most people are government workers or medical, in the medical field. Because we have the Bartlett Hospital. Like my fiance, for instance, she's a traveler's nurse. So those are the 2 biggest professions. And then the 3rd highest, which of course is only from May to October, is the tourist industry. So ironically, a lot of people that work here in the tourists, they're only here during the tourist season. They're not here. They're not locals. They don't live here all year long. Some of them do, but not a lot of them don't.
Back in the day, number 1 was gold.
Oh yeah, the main reason Juneau wound up on the map was gold. Was the gold mines. Well, in fact, we learned about that in that little tiny museum we went to. That film, if you remember that, Jeff.
Yes.
Film. So this is all. Now we're getting out again into the interlocking islands that eventually feed out into the Pacific Ocean proper. So all this is saltwater here, what you're seeing.
There was one island that you actually walked out to, but it dried up enough for you to do it. I forgot which one it was.
Oh yeah, that's actually that's called Shaman Island, which I've renamed Sabbath Island, and that actually is just up ahead on a trail. You got to hike a trail for about 15-20 minutes, but you get to that island where certain times when the tide's low enough, you can actually walk across a land bridge.
You go all the way, I forgot. You go all the way.
Yeah. Ooh, there's a waterfall like that. again, for those of you who joined us for part 2, we're now heading to the other end of Douglas Island. We've gone to the extreme south end of Juneau itself, and we've gone to the extreme south end of Douglas Island. Now we're heading to the extreme northwest corner of Douglas Island. Most of Douglas Island is wilderness, but I'm going as far as we can in the developed areas. Right along the Pacific Ocean here.
Bet you they had to blast all that out to put this road in.
Oh yeah. That's really why there's not a road that links us to Canada, to the mainland from here, because it would be so expensive. We're talking billions and billions of dollars to blast through either the Canadian mountains going east, or more likely, if they ever made a road, it would go due north up to Haines. And if you get to Haines, which today to get to Haines, you got to get on a ferry that takes about 6 hours to get up to Haines. But if they had a road that linked us to Haines, then Haines you can actually get on the Canadian highway system from there. And you can go into the northern tip of British Columbia, up into Yukon. You can get out into the other areas of Alaska. But they've squashed that, trying to build that because of just the money and expense. Although I suspect with Trump and the explosion of our economy, how it's doing so well, and with infrastructure, that Governor Dunleavy may get a road built between Juneau and Haines, which may then lead to much more population growth in Juneau than we heretofore have enjoyed. So this rainforest trail, one me and my fiance went on, that leads out to the Sabbath Island.
Oh, okay.
This rainforest trail, and there's another one up ahead too that does the same thing. It's called Outer Loop Trail or something.
It's a long road. How many miles is this? From the bridge to here?
That's a good question. It's a good question.
A few miles, anyway.
This is the other trail that leads to the Sabbath Island. John, you can get those mountains right here.
Yeah, pretty
Or
hard.
if you can get those, or if you need me to have the phone. I don't have a mask. Trees are too tall. About to get to the end of the road. This is the extreme. Now there's a trail at the end of the road that me and my fiance found, and it's known for mushrooms, and it goes along the west rim of the island, and I've done some YouTubes out there. But this is as far, and you can get the picture of the end of the road there. So this is the end of the road on the other end of Douglas Island.
Oh, there's a mill up there. So Douglas Island continues further. Or they just stopped the road there.
Oh yeah, there's about 70% of Douglas Island is completely wilderness.
Okay.
No one living there.
That's Grizzly Island.
Yeah. But there's trails. Like I said, there's trails that go. And I've gotten the beautiful trails.
You ever watch Wrangler Star on YouTube?
No.
He's pretty good. I'm not sure where he is, but he's in the wilderness someplace, and he's got a huge piece of land, and he goes into how they were living a good life. They were both making a lot of money, and they were living far exceeding the amount of money that they were making. They didn't even realize it, but they were spending a whole lot more than they were making. And
So guys, this is just the beauty of Douglas Island here. Towering mountains. Ski resort is in that cluster of mountains. There you go, John.
okay.
What were you saying, John?
So he was. So he's a homesteader in this land, and he goes out and chops down trees, and they build a house. But he got out of debt totally. They were in thousands and thousands of dollars worth of debt, and he used Dave Ramsey as his guide to get him out of debt. And they paid off one loan, and they paid off another loan, another loan. Pretty soon they were out of debt, and they moved to this place. At that time they had nothing, but now he's got over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and he puts out a video every day, and
He has over 1 million subscribers?
over 1 million
Wow.
subscribers. Yeah. So he's under the name of Wrangler Star.
And what is this content primarily?
It's just living on the homestead.
Huh. Yeah, those homesteader, living off-grid,
Yeah.
those YouTube channels tend to get a lot of subscribers. I watched one called Doug and Stacy, Off-Grid with Doug and Stacy, Homestead Homies. They have a off-grid homestead in Missouri. And all he does is show how they milk the cows and, live off the land or whatever.
Yeah.
But he has it was like 400,000 or 500,000 subscribers or something
Right,
like that. And
right.
he typically gets 100,000 views on his YouTubes.
Right.
So yeah.
Then there's Outdoors with the Morgans. They're people down in Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
They're doing the same thing.
Wow.
You got 100 acres down there, and they came through some rough times also.
There's one guy, him and his wife, they actually live on an island right off the coast of Juneau.
Oh, really?
And they do off-grid. And they'll come into town on their boat to go to the Costco, get groceries, and they'll do that like once a month, and then bring it back to their homestead on one of these islands.
Right.
In fact, show them, I'm gonna lower my window so you can see past the rain. One of those islands is where they live on their homestead. Bought some land.
Yeah. Wow.
And I guess Google has no problem with those kind of people, so they won't cut their subscribers.
No,
Well,
I don't think they're not controversial like I am.
Wrangler Star.
Now you can't see it, but if on a clear day, that's where the glacier would be.
Right.
You'd see what I'd renamed Yaz Blue,
Right.
Mendenhall Glacier. I'd renamed. You'd see it from here, and it's pretty dramatic. But unfortunately today, just because of the mist and the rain,
Right.
you just can't see it. You just can't see it today.
And tomorrow, you think?
I hope the weather clears tomorrow for the weddings if it's going to be outdoors. Oh, that came up on me.
Waterfall isn't.
Hold on, I'm gonna back up because there's no one behind me. And I really want the subscribers to see this waterfall.
Wow.
Not a huge waterfall, but it always is constantly roaring.
Now, where's that water go under the road out
Under
to
the
the
road
ocean?
and out, empties out into the ocean there.
Uh-huh.
And it comes from glaciers way up top,
Yeah.
where the
Wow.
ski resort is. And
It's amazing. Wonderful.
now the most spectacular waterfall is Nugget Falls. That's the one that's by the glacier itself that I took Jeff to last April, and I made some videos out there. In fact, I made a video out there in September of 2018 when I talked about James Comey going down. I actually had a glass that I put underneath the waterfall. People accuse me of making a beer commercial. Clickbait using my glacial waterfall, but and I got like 10,000 views within an hour. So yeah, on a clear day again. Oh, you can kind of see the glacier. I mean, probably not the viewers, but John, you can sort of see that blue area.
Yeah.
That's the glacier right there. That's the glacier, that blue area between the two mountains.
Mm-hmm. Praise God.
So in the day of the Egyptians, that glacier froze.
Well, according to that Creation Science Museum that I went to, okay, guys, that is the glacier. It's kind of shrouded in mist, but that's the glacier where my fiance and I will get married in front of.
That's a nice waterfall too. See, it kind of has 3 different levels.
Oh yeah, there's another waterfall. You can show that. John. Let me over here. Of course, these are types of waterfalls you could probably see even in like upstate New York. So it's not that spectacular, but they all are glacial, so they're much more pure than you find in upstate New York. Well, according to the Creation Science Museum in San Diego, Jeff, we had actually several ice ages, miniature ice ages, and they all happened after the flood.
Okay.
So about 4,000 years ago. So this current glacier was probably formed just after the flood, about 4,000 years ago. And right now, this here glacier is retreating, but then the other one that's sort of loosely connected to it on the south end of Juneau is advancing. So as it goes back, the other one gets pushed forward. So this whole idea of global warming, the glaciers are melting, is complete nonsense.
So when they buried King Tut, that was already frozen.
Well, yeah, that would be after the flood. So yeah. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about how the pyramids were built.
All right. Well, we actually read about them in the scriptures. The oldest one, the Pyramid of Giza, which is the oldest one, that was actually built by Enoch. And the reason we know that is because in Isaiah, it talks about how an altar of Yah was built in the land of Egypt, the land of Ham. And Enoch, if you go into the Pyramid of Giza, you actually see the 6,000-year plan of Yah and charted out in one of the hallways. Unfortunately, this beautiful altar to Yah, the Pyramid of Giza, was taken over by the Black Hats, the satanic pedophiles, pretty early on, right after the flood, by the descendants of Ham. And, of course, Egypt, which was a very evil culture back then, they enslaved the Israelites and had them build sort of other pyramids after that. But the Giza pyramid pretty much got taken over by the Satanists, and that's how they were first formed. And then
yeah, but I'm talking about how precise everything fits and how they got those huge stones up the side of the pyramids.
Well,
do you have any opinion about that?
Sure, yeah. People, remember, it's the second law of thermodynamics, that things go from a law of order to disorder. So that means rather than evolution, we've had de-evolution. This means Adam and Eve they can use 100% of their brains, whereas we can only use, 2% of our brains or something,
okay.
10%. So they were much more powerful, stronger, more intelligent, and then as history has progressed, sin has caused our human species to break down. So back then, they were much more smarter. They could do more with less. And in fact, they found a perfectly cut sphere in one of the pyramids that today we can only do using laser technology.
Right. Okay.
So they were much more smarter, much more capable. And as our 6,000-year history has progressed, the second law of thermodynamics, which kicked in the moment Adam and Eve sinned, things have gone from a state of order to disorder. So we have lost less of our brains, less of our bodies. We've become not as powerful. And so we're not able to do the things that our ancestors were able to do. We have more information about certain things,
right,
but
we don't have the knowledge.
Not the wisdom and ability to apply that information as well as our ancestors.
Okay, so you have no idea how they did it. Look at the plane up there.
Yeah.
You have no idea how they got those stones.
Oh, there's the ski resort. You gotta go up there.
Okay, all right.
Well, we're gonna skip that right now.
How they got those stones into place and how they did that, right?
I mean, there's theories about how they did it, but
yeah,
but I think they had such advanced understandings of how physics and everything worked that they were able to do it.
Well,
you know, in Rome they had coin operated elevators. In the ruins of Babylon they found batteries Like I said, they had a sphere that we could only make through a laser. So they understood how to do things that we just can't do today, unless we have, machines and things to help us.
Well, years ago, I saw a documentary about a guy who was very ill, and he was to the point where he couldn't do anything. He could just take little walks. So he would walk around the countryside and keep jabbing his stick into the ground, looking for something. And what it was that he finally found it. He found bedrock, so that the whole countryside was full of bedrock. And when he got better, he bought that land, and he continued. He would extract a piece of stone from it, like 3,000, 5,000 pound stone, and build a piece of furniture out of it. And nobody ever knew how he did it, but he built furniture after furniture after furniture. In fact, he had a door that with a just one hand push could rotate, and it was so well balanced that it would just rotate. You could go in and rotate it closed. And some people were bothering him, and he had to move the whole thing. And he called a truck driver. He said, come and I want you to move my stuff for me. And he told the driver, you go around that road back there and wait till I call you. And the guy would go, and he would hear something clunk onto his truck. He came back, and there's this huge stone on his truck. Never knew how he did it. He had never had any kind of power equipment or anything like that. So I figured, and this was a documentary that I saw on television, and I figured that he tapped into some sort of evil ability that could move huge stones or huge things. And he moved his whole park where he was living that way. And no one ever knew how he did it. No one ever knew. They could not figure out how he did it.
So yeah, there is another side to, I didn't cover this, but just to respond to what you're saying. So there was both the advanced human intelligence that's degraded over time, but you're right, there were fallen angels.
Right.
In fact, we read about this in Genesis 6 before the flood, where fallen angels came down and mated with women and gave birth to the giants. And and that's one of the reasons why Yah sent the flood. But these angels also brought technology. These fallen angels brought technology and abilities, supernatural abilities to people.
Right.
And in fact, to this day, you have witches. In fact, that book, He Came to Set the Captive Free, which we've read, the sequel, Prepare for War by Rebecca Brown, talk about how witches to this day have these special abilities through Satan and his fallen angels to do telepathy, to do, what do you call it when you're able to raise things up like Luke Skywalker does with the Force? Levitation. That's all satanic. That's all witchcraft. And so, they are able to tap into these.
So I figured, well, that's one way that they could have built the pyramids.
Sure.
They were very much into that kind of stuff, and if this guy could figure it out, they could certainly figure it out. And
because definitely like with the Pyramid of Giza, even though I do think it was originally built by a righteous man, Enoch, it was co-opted by the Black Hats, and then I think the other ones have been built for Satanists. But that Pyramid of Giza, I believe, is going to come into play to bring part of the great delusion that Yah brings upon the whole world when the Great Tribulation comes to pass. Because now this is just my theory. This is not thus saith Yah, but I believe that they just 2 years ago, the French scientists bombarded the Pyramid of Giza with these electrons, and they found a hidden vault in Giza toward the top. And so far, Egyptian authorities have not allowed the scientists to go in there, but the scientists are developing these nanobots, little miniature robots, to go in and film it, but they haven't put it in there yet.
Mm-hmm.
But this vault, or this void as they call it, I believe that's where the broken and murdered or self-murdered body of Judas Iscariot was put. After he killed himself.
Yeah.
That Enoch and John, who I believe they never died, but Enoch and John, they took the broken body of Judas Iscariot, put it in that void in the Pyramid of Giza, and that's where he's been. His dead body's been there. Because Acts 1 talks about how he's put it into his own place, and that right before the Great Tribulation breaks out, they're going to go into that void in the Pyramid of Giza, and they're going to find this coffin or this whatever, mummified body, whatever, and that's going to be Judas Iscariot. And then, of course, when Satan gets cast down from earth to begin the Great Tribulation, he's going to fill that body, just like he filled Judas at the day of Passover.
Right.
And he's going to come out of there, and that's why we have that Giza on our dollar bill with an all-seeing eye above it.
Yeah.
That's going to be where the deception begins. And then, of course, he's going to come in like a meek, on a donkey, come in like a meek Messiah into Jerusalem. Because Daniel says he'll start as a small, humble man, and then he'll gradually gain more and more support.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be doing miracles like Jesus did. And he's going to ride it on a donkey and come into Jerusalem, and people are going to think he's the Messiah.
Yeah.
And the Incas also, in South America, building pyramids. Wasn't it the Incas? But
they built what's known as ziggurats, which are not quite like pyramids, but they look similar. They have the stair.
So I mean, the continents we had to go back and forth, I guess, between the continents at that point.
Well, we did, because the scripture talks about how Solomon, at the height of his power, sent his armada that took 3 years to go to the land of Ophir, where they got all the gold. And I believe that armada went from the Middle East, the Mediterranean, all the way across to South America, where the Aztecs were and all that gold was. And they'd bring and it would take 3 years.
I heard the Vikings did that, buried the red.
Later, yeah, but I'm talking about Solomon was well before the Vikings. But yeah.
Stored stuff in like the Grand Canyon.
Oh, really? Well, there is that Los Lunas stone in New Mexico, just south of Albuquerque, where they have the 10 Commandments written in Paleo-Hebrew, and it's dated to about 3000 BC. Because after the northern tribes were scattered by Assyria, some of them came over the land bridge here to North America. And they were serving Yah, but then they departed from Yah. And that's why a lot of the Native Americans have, fringes, like I wear a blue fringe. They venerate the new moon, which the new moons are talked about in Isaiah 66. Their highest spirit is called Yah, or Yahweh. So they still have remnants of the Hebrew culture. Wow, look at this. Now it just rises up into the mist here. So again, the people who live in downtown Juneau, this is what they wake up to every morning.
Yeah. What's that house up there? See it up?
That one?
Right above the light.
I see. Is that a house or is that a...
Some sort of a structure.
I don't know. It's interesting. I don't even know how you'd get there. To be honest.
This stuff is all interesting. About the pyramids and all that.
Mm-hmm.
The scientists say, oh, they did this, they built ramps, they went up ramps, and
right.
That's all impossible.
Right.
That's as impossible as evolution is.
Right.
And
yeah, they obviously were much smarter, and also I think it was a combination of how they were much smarter than we are, and also working with fallen angels.
Right.
Wow, look at if you can get this island, John, with the mist on the mountains there. It's pretty spectacular. Hopefully my face isn't blotting out the camera.
We're just getting your nose. A little bit of your nose. We get all these bugs.
Look at that mist up there. Isn't that dramatic?
Yeah.
It's like a painting. All creation testifies to the glory of Yah.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
And yet man continues to want to take that away from God. It couldn't have been built by anybody else. I believe evolution, the main purpose of evolution is to prove that there is no God.
Yep.
And it does a horrible job of it. Because all it says is, oh, but it was billions and billions of years ago that this all happened.
Yeah.
So anything could have developed. Well, that's
I so
ridiculous.
enjoyed last January making that video where I visited the when I was down in San Diego, where I visited that Creation Science
Yeah.
Museum in San Diego, because it was so good. I mean, it blows evolution out of the water with all the science and anthropology and all the biology and all the stuff that they put on display. It just totally blows this billions of years evolution
What's
out
that
of the
red
water.
dot mean?
What's that?
What's that red dot
That
flashing?
means it's recording.
Oh,
That means it's recording. If it stops flashing, that means it's not recording it.
Oh, okay. All right. I didn't see it before.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
What are you playing? You're gonna interfere with my audio, Jeff.
I was looking at the waterfall video I made.
Oh, I see.
I had a reveal where you rolled down the window, and all of a sudden there was a waterfall.
So now, guys, we're back on the main road of Glacier Highway of Juneau, the mainland. And like I said, in part one, we went to the extreme south end of Juneau. Now we're heading to the extreme north end of Juneau. We're actually about to pass the hospital where my fiance works.
Oh, really?
She's over there.
Okay.
Right.
And that's a big hospital?
Well, it's the only one in Juneau.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's big, but it's the only one that services Juneau and then all the surrounding communities like Hoona
That was
Haynes.
Is that the hospital I was near? But they said it was just around the block.
Yep. Yeah, because your Airbnb was down this road, Jeff. We went down that road, and then he had an Airbnb that was at the foot of this mountain right here.
Uh-huh.
So he got he had a glass window where he got a pretty good view of, these mountains across the bay, but they were much more in the distance than what you guys get.
Right.
That's why your Airbnb is, I think, nicer.
There's Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, I pray against that place. In fact, I saw recently some ladies out there protesting and preaching against it, and so I was like, hallelujah. And then every time I pass that Planned Parenthood, I pray that it gets shut down.
Yeah.
By the way, the movie Unplanned has now been released. I was able to order it, and I have it at home now.
Do you?
I play it on my TV. I love that movie. That movie is incredible. Did you see it?
Yeah, I did.
That movie was powerful.
Did you see it, Jeff?
Oh yes, I saw it in the theater.
Yeah, I saw the theater
Yeah,
too.
so did I.
I was surprised it came here to Juneau because we only have 2 theaters. The one I showed you in part 1, and then we have another one in the valley close to me. But these theaters are very small. We only have like 2 or 3 screens.
Yeah.
So we get hardly any movies here, and I don't go see movies anyway, especially since I've learned about all the satanic pedophiles.
Yeah,
but
right.
I was surprised that Unplanned actually came here for about a week or 2 weeks to Juneau and played at the cinema that's near where I live. And so I was like, oh man. So one evening after the prayer meeting, since we ended at 6, I was like, I'm gonna go catch the 7 o'clock showing. Yeah, that was a powerful movie.
It was really good. Well done.
Down this road goes to what's known as the Lemon Creek area. You can sort of pivot your phone to the right there, John, and get the dramatic mountains there. But that's where, in that amongst those mountains and valleys, that's where the Costco is. That's where some health food stores are. That's where the bakery is, where I get my challah. What else is over there?
Yeah, this reminds me of a big wave. See these mountains with the fog? Like it's coming in.
Yeah. Oh, there's an eagle on the top of that
Yeah.
lamppost
Yep.
there.
Yep. Just sitting there.
Now, there are times where there are literally eagles on every single lamppost. And you just see eagle after eagle after eagle.
Yeah. Wow.
We don't really see any bears because they've pretty much gone up to the top of the mountains, and if they're not in their hibernation mode, they soon will be.
Yeah.
And they'll be sleeping from now until about March, middle of March, early April.
They've already made it. And
I got a film on this phone here. I may need to get some
Ha ha ha. Funny, Jeff.
so that when they wake up in the spring, they'll have their babies. Right?
Oh, I don't know about that. I just know that they eat a lot so that they have enough fat storage to last the winter while they're sleeping. I don't know when they mate.
I think they mate in the fall. What are those over there? Oh, trees or something.
These are trees.
No, I meant in the prairie area.
Little rivers and lakes.
Little trees.
Oh, little bushes maybe.
Yeah.
Driftwood.
Something might have been in
Driftwood, because some of this, when we get more water, the water rises over this. Some of that. So some of that's underwater at certain times of the year. Heading north to the north end of Juneau, to the end of the road.
This is the only road in Juneau that has
the main. Yeah, this is the glacial. There's other side roads. Okay, can you get this, John?
Yeah. Wow.
So again, we're looking at Douglas Island. It's across the channel.
Yeah, you can't see it very well on here, but.
Oh, really?
No, beautiful.
Probably if I zoomed in, you could see it better, but don't try it because it's hard to do unless you know how to do it.
Okay.
And we're coming up to Jeff's favorite place, Fred Meyer.
Okay.
We'll be going there before sunset tonight because I got to pick up the turkey.
Why don't we go there now?
Because I want to keep filming.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to have to come back this way anyway for lunch when we go to the wharf. The Hangman's Wharf.
You say Meyer, I say Mayer. You say Mayer,
Fred,
I say Meyer.
Fred Myers. That's how it's pronounced. Or Fred Meyer. Jeff, that's the McDonald's, just so you know.
Oh, is that it?
A place I never go to.
The drive-thru.
No.
Where
It is blasphemy to go to McDonald's. Blasphemy. They mix human meat with
Oh boy.
human flesh with, well, at least the one in the UK. The Hampstead case. I don't know about the ones here in the United States, but the one at that aquatic center in the UK that I did that investigative report on summer of 2018, the Hampstead kids, they saw them mixing human flesh with, and they found traces of human DNA in McDonald's meat. So, yeah, not a place you want to go eat. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little side trip, and we're going to stop going to the end of the road for a moment. We're going to go on this road that will take us to the glacier, or at least one part of the glacier.
So this is the way we'll get here tomorrow?
No, we're actually going to a part of the glacier where the wedding's not going to be, but I'll take you to the place where we're going to be after we go to this place.
Okay.
So there's kind of a loop that'll connect us right back to the
Main road.
Glacier Highway. You can see the mountain that's rising up, but you can't even see the top of it.
Yeah.
That's a massive mountain. This is called Thunder Mountain here, and the reason it's called Thunder Mountain on the right is because there are avalanches where the snow will avalanche down the mountainside and create this thunderous roar. That happens quite often.
So it's kind of a dangerous place to be around.
Well, you got to be walking in the Holy Spirit, but that's why they name it Thunder Mountain.
don't see many churches where they're white. They're mostly like the red kind of coloring.
What?
A lot of churches in the south anyway are always white.
White?
Yeah, painted white.
Ah. I'm going to show you guys a really neat church on our way to the north that almost looks like a log cabin. It's right on Hawk Bay.
That waterway that was coming in from the ocean is behind us now?
Which waterway? Oh,
The one
the Gossamer Channel?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
one we've been driving along.
Yeah, it's behind us.
It's behind us.
We're now heading toward Canada. We're heading due east toward Canada right now.
Okay.
Toward the top part of British Columbia. And then, of course, the Yukon is right just to the north of the top part of British Columbia.
Right. But you can't get there on.
Not from here. Now, if you've gotten a plane, like if you had your own little private plane, you could just fly just a little ways. You'd be in Canada.
Okay.
But blasting through this with a road,
Yeah.
that's
Little ridiculous.
big, maybe a gold-backed currency, and the removal of the Federal Reserve to get something like that done.
This is all Russia, wasn't it?
Up to 1867, and then we bought it from Russia for a little over $7 million, which means we paid less than, I think, $100 an acre. We pretty much stole it from the Russians, but I'm glad we got it.
Money at the time.
Well, Russia didn't really want it. They thought it was too cumbersome, and they didn't know what to do with it. They were mistreating the natives, and we were able to work with the natives much better than the Russians.
I think that we beat Canada out of that deal. I mean, I think
Canada was,
liked this.
in 1867, Canada didn't have the clout or the money or the ability to, they were so busy, the British Empire was so busy with all their wars in 1867, and their empire was on the decline by then. And they didn't have the ability to, we were on the ascent, we were on the rise, we had just gotten past the Civil War. We were on the rise as a nation, and so we bought this chunk of land. I'm so glad we did. I'm so glad we did. 1867 was a Jubilee year, by the way, when we bought this.
Was it?
1867, and then of course 1917 was the next Jubilee year, and then 1967 was the next Jubilee year, and then 2017 was the next Jubilee year.
Wow, look at that over there.
Yeah, that's the glacier. That's the glacier.
Queen Victoria was in power
In 1867? Was Queen Victoria a powerful queen?
She came 1850. She became queen.
Was she powerful, or just
You know,
more of
you've
a...
heard of the Victorian era.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's
Okay, well then I guess the British was still at
She
the
was
height
over
of their...
India. You know, Canada.
Okay, well then I guess they were still at the height of their power even then, huh?
New South Wales.
Well then it must have just been that orchestrated us being able to buy it, not the British Empire.
Okay.
Wow.
See it.
Look at that.
Now, do you guys want to get out?
Yeah, I think I would.
All right. I have to go to the bathroom anyway. Let's keep recording.
It's not raining much up here.
I mean, you can bring your umbrella if you want. Jeff, I have to go to the restroom, so I'm going to let you hold this and keep recording. And I'll join you guys in just a moment.
Sitting for that long. Woo! My legs get all cramped up.
See, there's the falls that we hiked to. He was talking about right there.
Really?
I tasted the water down there. It's really
Oh.
sweet, not very good, you know.
Yeah.
Look at that mountain way up there.
You know what? I gotta go to the bathroom too. When I get
Okay.
up from sitting. Well,
Okay. Okay, this is Nugget Falls. You can hear the roaring of Nugget Falls. And the glacier right beside it. Looks like some of the glacier has come. We have some ice in the water. Some of the icebergs I saw in April here. You can see now in November floating in the water. Here's the sites around this area. I'll do a circle. All the mountains.